Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Scandals segment brought to you by ABK Law. Now, today's show is a fascinating one. The high-stakes legal battles shaping public perception. We're going to dive into 3 explosive legal battles that not only highlight the power struggles in Hollywood, fitness, and in music, but also shed light on the broader implications of defamation, intellectual property rights, and the price of reputation in the digital age. Let's look at the bigger picture. A 2023 Pew Research Center study found that 57% of Americans believe celebrities face a different legal system than the average person. Meanwhile, Harvard Business Review reported that defamation lawsuits among high-profile individuals have surged by 35% in the last decade. The question remains, does celebrity status help or hurt in the courtroom? Are we seeing a shift in how high-profile cases are being handled? To break all this down, I'm joined by Imran Ansari, one of the country's top legal minds. Imran is a partner at ABK Law, a court TV legal analyst, and a litigator with extensive experience in high-profile cases. He's here to help us unpack the legal strategies, risks, and potential outcomes of these cases. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thanks for having me, Zen.
Okay, let's dive right into Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, a case that exposes the darker side of Hollywood power dynamics. What started as a professional dispute over the film adaptation of It Ends With Us has now escalated into a $400 million legal battle involving defamation, harassment, and even civil extortion. Blake Lively is alleging that Baldoni attempted to undermine her role in the project and engaged in harassing behavior, while Baldoni, in turn, claims that Lively and Reynolds have engaged in defamation and civil extortion to damage his reputation and career. And this isn't the first time Hollywood has seen a legal battle of this nature. Johnny Depp's defamation case against Amber Heard was a prime example of how these lawsuits can be as much about public perception as they are about legal facts. So, Imran, let's chat the burden of proof in these cases. Defamation lawsuits in Hollywood seem to be as much about power as they are about reputation. What specific hurdles does Baldoni face in proving defamation, and how does this case compare to past Hollywood lawsuits?
Baldoni has the burden of proof here as the plaintiff in his defamation lawsuit. What does that mean? He has to prove his case by the preponderance of the evidence. So it's a lesser burden than a criminal case, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. And he has to prove that the statements that Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds made about him are false. He has the burden. He has to prove that those statements were false. Now, what is the defense for Lively and Reynolds? Well, truth is the absolute defense to a case of defamation or a claim of defamation. So if they're able to prove or at least show in court that the statements were true, and Baldoni is not able to prove that they were in fact false, well, then his claim is going to the wayside. But if he does prove that these statements were false and caused him damages, reputational harm, then he's going to be able to prevail.
Interesting. So let's talk civil versus criminal harassment in these disputes. If Lively's claims of harassment gain traction, could this shift from a civil matter to a criminal case? I mean, what's the legal threshold for that transition?
Well, the allegations in this case really lend itself to the civil context. You have individuals on a movie set who are working together. There's sort of a employer-employee relationship, or at least I should say a working relationship between these individuals. And it's within the sort of context of employment, right? They're making a movie, they're acting. So it lends itself more to a civil harassment claim that would be brought in a civil lawsuit like it has been in civil court. Now, criminal harassment really goes beyond the sort of employment aspect of things and rises to the level of criminality. That's not to say that there are cases where there is a claim of harassment in the civil context, which also has a parallel case pending in a criminal prosecution if that harassment, such as sexual harassment, was the subject of charges brought by a prosecutorial agency. But in the context with Lively, Baldoni, it really lends itself to what it is, and that's a civil lawsuit based on harassment.
Got it. That makes sense. Now let's move on to Tracy Anderson versus Megan Roup, a legal battle that raises a fundamental question about intellectual property rights in the wellness industry. Anderson is a celebrity trainer known for working with Madonna and Gwyneth Paltrow, sued Roup in 2022 for copyright infringement, breach of contract, and false advertising. The case took a turn when the two parties settled the breach of contract claim, but Anderson continues to pursue copyright infringement charges. Now, with the rise of influencer-driven fitness programs, we're seeing more cases like this. But can a workout method really be considered intellectual property?
Yeah. So if they're able to prove that this particular exercise regimen is something that is so distinct from, say, just routine exercises, and I believe that she did have some problems with that claim, and it was dismissed, and I believe it's on appeal. But if they're, someone is able to prove that an exercise regimen is so unique and distinct that it's copyrightable, then it could be something that is actionable if someone else infringes on that copyright, infringes on the intellectual property of another. So that's what you see here in the claim. Of course, there was that breach of contract aspect of it that was settled between the parties, but it gets a little more nuanced when you are claiming that you had a piece of artwork or an exercise regimen that was so unique, that was so true to you and your creativity, and you created it. It's your intellectual property. It's your copyright. It gets a little more tricky in this aspect than, say, another area of copyright infringement, such as music or, a piece of art and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out ultimately in the appellate, phase, because you see, like you mentioned, Zen, on TikTok, on social media, all sorts of dance routines, exercises, and things like that. And where will the law actually provide protection if someone is saying that, hey, I invented that, I made that up, and now you're out there doing the same thing?
Right. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, it's a very slippery slope because, someone's going to argue that can a fitness routine even be copyrighted, right? But the legal standings are what they are. And I guess that's why we have litigators like you to go in the courtroom and really get the results, right? I mean, you have to be really smart about the way you present this stuff. So let's talk about the rise of IP lawsuits in the fitness industry. So with social media allowing trainers to brand themselves like globally, are we entering an era where IP lawsuits like this will become like just common? I mean, should fitness entrepreneurs start thinking about legal protection earlier?
Yeah, well, you certainly should seek the protection if you have a product like that, or a service, a fitness service like that you are marketing to others. But like in this world of AI, the internet, social media, and people putting content out there, which you could probably see one thing on someone's social media page and then it gets duplicated, it goes viral, and it starts replicating itself. The law is going to have to adapt to that technology, to those new social and societal norms, to really give the parameters out there of copyright law. What is actionable under copyright law? What is protected and what is not? What is fair game and is so just common to the public that it's not actionable, it's not copyrightable. And as we see social media, TikTok, and all these multitude of people putting content out there, it's going to be an area in the courts that the courts are going to have to grapple with this new technology, new societal norms, and how you deal with copyright law, intellectual property law, especially with AI. AI is a realm that is so unprecedented in our courts. It's going to be very interesting to see how the law deals with that when you have, infringement on people's likeness, people creating, full content where you think it's a certain individual, but it's actually AI. And we just saw that actually with the Kanye, recently, with the Kanye swastika shirt. There was this video out there which had like the middle finger at Kanye. And, they had a whole slew of celebrities in there. But my understanding was that those celebrities didn't actually sit for that. It was AI, right? So you're going to see things like that replicate itself. And sometimes the celebrity or the person who is now likeness is being made in AI will give consent to that. But I am sure that there's going to be the majority of instances of AI being used where the individual did not give consent. And now the courts are going to have to grapple with lawsuits and how the law adapts to that technology.
Okay, let's talk about Sean Diddy Combs' latest legal battle, a $100 million defamation lawsuit that he filed against the makers of a recent documentary about him. I believe it was NBC that released the documentary. He continues all the while to face allegations of sexual assault. He's currently in a New York jail awaiting a federal criminal trial on sex trafficking and racketeering charges, which he denies. He's also claiming that the allegations are completely false and deeply damaging to his reputation and business ventures, all while in jail. Now, my question is, Imran, how are courts treating this defamation case differently than traditional media defamation lawsuits? Is the burden of proof shifting in this new landscape? And more importantly, P. Diddy Combs claims that this has hurt his business deals. How is the court going to assess financial damages in this defamation case? Does economic loss actually strengthen Diddy's case?
Well, there are certain protections for allegations that are made in the court and in legal documents like complaints and motions, and that's called the litigation privilege. So an individual is able to make claims even if they're they're salacious against someone, or they're not complimenting, and they could be even damaging to someone's reputation if they brought it in a lawsuit in good faith. Otherwise people wouldn't bring lawsuits and say bad things about the other side, which typically a lawsuit does. Because then they would be dissuaded from doing so because they would be afraid to be sued for defamation. Now, there are parameters about what you can say and what extent you can really comment on the litigation or allegations. And I think what's happening here is sometimes the best defense is an offense. I'm not saying it's necessarily a successful tactic, but that is what we possibly see here, is that his attorneys are saying these allegations are out there, and they're going to bring defamation suits and sort of punch back and fight back in that arena, if you will, while Diddy also faces a slew of criminal charges. And as you mentioned, Zen is locked up in the MDC in Brooklyn, federal correctional facility. So, you're going to see, I think, we've been talking about this on the show today, Zen, the rise of defamation cases as you have more content out there. And I'm going back to the content of publications in the media, but also on social media, where you have now so many people out there publishing, right? So to defame someone, you have to publish the statement, whether that's being told to someone, whether that's being posted somewhere or published in a newspaper or on TV. And with, you have so many people now who are putting content and media, I should say, out there, that is going to open up the realm of defamation cases or potential defamation cases, because people are commenting and saying things about others in such a high volume now.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen similar cases before. Elon Musk's defamation lawsuit against a Twitter user, for example, right? Or even Cardi B's, I think it was like a $4 million victory against a YouTuber for spreading false rumors. So, it's definitely, to your point, defamation in the age of social media has to really be rethought, right? How are courts treating social media defamation cases differently than the traditional media ones? Is the burden of proof shifting in this new landscape?
Well, the burden's there, but there is certain parameters and protections, at least for, let's say, X or Instagram or Meta. Those companies cannot be sued for the content that is posted by a user. Now, there's a federal statute that protects the companies from, say, if, a random user of X starts posting defamatory content against another person, the companies can't be sued. And normally and typically, those are the deep pockets, and the plaintiff would want to sue a deep pocket for a defamation claim, whether it's a TV station or network, whether it's a newspaper for the defamatory content or publishing the defamatory content, along with the person who made the statement itself. So on social media, you can still sue someone for defamation, but you're going to be suing that individual. And often it's not that easy to even find out the identity of someone who is posting content which may be defamatory, because often users are somewhat anonymous or using different profile names that are not their actual legal name. So there's a whole realm of issues and hurdles that someone has to face if they see defamatory content on social media and want to sue for it.
Well, I mean, in this case, you have Combs suing the makers of the documentary. I think it was NBC Universal. But I mean, this guy's in jail facing very, very serious charges. And now he's claiming that this has hurt his business deals. I mean, how do courts assess this financial damage? I mean, does economic loss strengthen Diddy's case? Because I mean, this is like reverse engineering it. He's in jail. So is this a facade to just really flip the script? Like I said, I mean, I know you answered the question, but I'm just thinking out loud, right? There's a lot of layers to this.
Yeah, and Zen, there's a concept, not to get into legal weeds here, but there's a concept called defamation per se that, someone suing for defamation doesn't even have to show economic damages in dollars and cents if the defamatory statement is alleging criminal conduct, or it tarnishes or harms someone's business reputation. And that's really what would be alleged here with Diddy. Now, the defense to that would be, it's not that this reporting of this documentary or any statements in the media harmed Diddy and caused him to have economic loss or loss of business reputation. It's the actual criminal charges that he's facing and the allegations in those criminal charges. So I think there's a robust defense to his claims.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad you said that. So now, tying it all together, the power of reputation. Looking at these cases side by side, one thing is definitely clear. Reputation is everything. Whether you're a Hollywood actor, a fitness mogul, or a music icon, your public image is a form of currency. And there was a Harvard Business Review, a study that found that reputation-related lawsuits cost companies and individuals an average of 25% of their annual revenue. Puts the money right in your pocket, Imran. So let's discuss celebrities and defamation lawsuits, right? This growing trend. I know that we've seen it happen, but there's a PR strategy behind these high-profile lawsuits, I believe. Some lawsuits seem to be more about changing the public narrative than actually winning in court. You know this better than anyone else. How often are lawsuits filed primarily for PR reasons, and how does this strategy actually play out?
Yeah, Zen, I actually just taught a course at Florida State University School of Law remotely, because I'm here in New York, called Media and the Law, Litigating High-Profile Cases in the Court of Law and the Court of Public Opinion. And a big topic that I taught my students in that course was the use of litigation in the PR context, right? So you have a high net worth person, a high-profile individual out there, and let's just say they have been sued or they're facing criminal charges. There may be a desire to somehow punch back in the public narrative and file a lawsuit, just a defamation lawsuit, to signify to the public that, this is not the truth. At least this is what their position is. And they're fighting back in the court of law to sort of restore their name. There's a lot of considerations in litigation with the public relations aspect of things. You could file a complaint where you allege things in the complaint, knowing that the media will take a look at it and that you are going to be getting your narrative out there in the public domain. You may be interacting with the press about the litigation and providing statements to the press or media about the litigation, and you have PR concerns along with the legal concerns. And now, one of the aspects I taught my students was it's a fine line that you have to make sure that you're ethical on the legal side, but it's completely appropriate and often used by litigants, especially high-profile litigants, to use the courts of law when you're already in the court of law in a strategic way, in a PR aspect. And I think we see that over and over again just in recent cases that we've been talking about, right? We talked about Baldoni, Lively, excuse me, and Ryan Reynolds, also with Diddy. And, you're seeing these competing sort of competing, but also on parallel tracks where you're litigating in the court of law, but you're also in the court of public opinion and trying to sway the narrative in your favor there.
Yeah. No, it's really a game of chess. I mean, that's really all it is. It's like checkmate. You got to just be one step ahead. And I know that that's what you're amazing at doing. Thank you so much. Your insight is invaluable. I love having you on. I mean, these cases prove that in today's world, the court of public opinion is just as powerful as the court of law, right?
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. A big thank you to ABK Law and, of course, to Imran Ansari, partner at ABK Law and Court TV's legal analyst. Stay tuned for more right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. You're listening to A Moment of Zen, and I'm your host, Zen Sams. We'll be right back after this.